Good evening. A little higher? Yep. House spoke very highly of me, thank you. I'm not an authority on very much. But I am also not, my name is Christine Logan. Thank you for having me here tonight. My husband is going to be helping. Thank you. And I'm going to start right away because someone had said, oh, you do beautiful work. I am not an artist. Yes, you can look at me and look at me funny. I am not a carver. I am not a silversmith. I am not an artist. I'm up here. I am not a fraud. But what I am is a turquoise aficionado. I am not an expert, but I do know my stones. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. I am enthusiastically knowledgeable about turquoise. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and particularly Arizona turquoise. So I have to make sure this is on. Thank you. So I am someone who grew up, for the most part, in the American West, and I actually grew up right down the road in Turquoise. And I was raised by parents who loved everything Western, and both my parents each happened to have a business in the Native American industry, art and jewelry, and they began their collection in the 1950s in Gallup, New Mexico. My mom, Barb Yoder, there's a picture of her. She was actually a member of Friends of Western Art for many years. She was actually a member of Friends of Western Art for many years. She had a beautiful gallery. First it was over on Broadway in Pantana. It was called Touch of Turquoise. And then it moved over across to the La Plaza shops across from Trail Dust Town. And that was, she sold part of her collection there and also other Native American, you see, rugs and pottery. And she did that for years. And then my father, Jerry Eglin, he's actually the one in the picture of the men with squash blossoms. He's the one in the far right. The two of them both had separate businesses. He began seeing that there was a need for Native Americans to continue to keep their traditions alive. And so he worked with a lot of Native American artists to create lines of jewelry. And one of the things that he did was invest in mining claims and raw turquoise. He saw that there was going to be a day and age coming where there was going to be less and less American turquoise. And so he began to put some of the turquoise back. And they both worked in the Native American and turquoise industries for more than 50 years until their respective passings a few years ago. So they say that 10,000 hours is mastery of a subject, and each of my parents had more than 50 years in the subject. So both of them knew their turquoise well. They knew how to take time and source it. They knew where to get it from. I am heading towards 10,000 hours, but what I'm learning is the more I learn, the more I don't know. The industry is constantly changing. So tonight, what I want to do is share a little bit with you about the diminishing supply of American turquoise, specifically the diminishing supply of Arizona turquoise. Why it's disappearing and why it's important to own some. And I love the idea of being able to get Western wearable art into the hands of those who don't want to see a Western American tradition fade away. So tonight we're going to be talking about some of that tradition. By the time the evening's over, I hope you come to understand that despite the apparent abundance of turquoise around us, true high-quality stones are actually very scarce. So scarce, in fact, that in recent years, it's been deemed more valuable than gold. And my husband, Scott, is going to go through some of that. So first, we're going to put on our thinking caps and do a little world history. So if you'll look at the screen, turquoise has been used in ancient civilizations all over the world. China, Tibet, Egypt, Babylon, and Persia, as well as the Mayan and the Aztec cultures. Two of the world's oldest mines are more than 6,000 years old. One that is up on the screen now is called the Magara Wadi, and that is from Egypt. And it is actually talked about in hieroglyphics from the first dynasty in Egypt. And it was called the Terraces of Turquoise. It was used, documented, that it was used 3000 BC. If you look at the picture, those are trucks at the bottom of the canyon. That's how big the Terraces of Turquoise are. Little tiny squares there. The other mine that's one of the oldest in the world, it is the oldest in the world, is called the Neshaber mine, and it is from Iran. It's called the Persian mine, and Persian turquoise literally comes from this mine. It has been used since 3500 BC. Yeah, 3500 BC. And as you can see, the turquoise is used in the mosaics in the mosque there, and it represents the sky in the mosaic. Both of these cultures used turquoise long before anyone in the Americas was mining it. They loved turquoise and believed that it had special properties. It was used for amulets of protection. It was used on their daggers and their shields, in their head ornaments, in their jewelry, along with gold, lapis, coral. The use of turquoise flourished along with its mythology. So I'm going to show you some pictures here that there you go. In ancient Egypt, of course, King Tut's burial mask, gold, lapis, bottom you see turquoise, coral. And then there is a scarab that is carved, and that was used for Egyptian royalty to wear. The next one is a collar, and it has the lapis, the coral, and the turquoise all set in the gold. And finally, in ancient Israel, in the Bible actually, in the Old Testament, it talks about the high priest. There was a piece of turquoise in his ornamentation as well.
Oh wow.
And this is beautiful, beautiful Persian turquoise. Not just used for jewelry, but notice it's in their service wear as well. Beautiful. And you will learn further in the presentation that wherever there's copper, there's typically turquoise, and that service wear is out of copper. Now in the Americas, turquoise was used a little bit differently. It was not set in gold or silver, because there is no archaeological or scientific evidence that there was ever metalsmithing, goldsmithing, silversmithing, coppersmithing, until the arrival of the Spanish in 1250. So use of turquoise, as in the Mayan mask there, was used as a tile. It would be placed on an item and then used as a mosaic. And that would be about 1000 BC. Then the Aztecs, same principle there. They would use it in their amulets and place it on their daggers, but also it would not be placed in jewelry. It was just applied or carved as an effigy. However, if you look at the far right slide, or the far right picture, those are actually beads that were taken from Chaco Canyon. In Chaco Canyon, interestingly, over 50,000 items of turquoise were found in the diggings. Was definitely a significant item for trade or for ornamentation, but Chaco Canyon is, when you think about it, all of the items that were found, the significance of turquoise demonstrates that it was significant for their culture. All of these cultures, the Egyptian, the Persian, the Babylonian, Mayan, Aztec, ancestral Puebloan, revered the beautiful blue stone. They believed that it brought protection, promoted wisdom, instilled tranquility, and even was a source of life. If you look here, this is what we've come to recognize as use for Native American turquoise. And what's interesting is the Dene people, or the Navajo, believe that the turquoise is considered a piece of the sky given to the earth, or a representation of precious water in solid form in an arid land. Turquoise woman, or changing woman, she is the symbol of creation and abundance for the Dene people. She appeared to her people as a drop of liquid turquoise. I like to think of that. And spoke to them with instruction of life, and that the turquoise mines that are found in the Southwest are actually locations where her tears fell from the sky to earth and created the turquoise mines. That's great lore. That's something good. So these are just gratuitous pictures of turquoise. Right? We'll take it. So turquoise comes in many colors. It comes in many, I'm going to say, styles. And Scott is going to be talking a little bit, yep, you just want to have gratuitous pictures of beautiful things. There you go. He's going to be talking a bit about the changes, the different colors of turquoise. So what we're going to talk about now, though, is the American popularization of turquoise. There we go. During the expansion of the West, trading posts like the Hubble, the one that Lorenzo Hubble had, he had a major influence on the marketability of both Native American rug design and jewelry design, making suggestions as to what would be more acceptable for the Anglo population to purchase. And then during the railroad expansion, no one did more to promote Native American and indigenous art than the Fred Harvey Corporation. He made sure that all of the hotels, restaurants, gift shops were all filled with Native American art and beauty. And again, suggestions were made to make it more valuable to take home as souvenirs. And then soon, there we go. Soon, Western movies began romanticizing the West, and by the 30s and 40s, Western wear was very popularized, as was the bolo tie. However, making Native American jewelry more mainstream came from a very unlikely source of Millicent Rogers. She was a Standard Oil magnate's granddaughter, and she fell in love with the American Southwest, specifically the area between Tues and Gallup. She saw that the blend of cultures, Spanish, Puebloan, Navajo, and Mexican, she loved the way the cultures blended in their art, and quickly saw how the indigenous art was disappearing because of the popularization of the West and the westward expansion of Anglos. So she decided that she wanted to begin a collection. Has anybody been to the Millicent Rogers Museum? If you haven't been there, please go. Her collection is remarkable. It is not just jewelry, it is not just Native American. It's in Tues, New Mexico. Yes, and it is phenomenal. It is worth the trip. But she began, as you notice the picture, she began wearing the Native American indigenous designed clothing as well as the jewelry. And because she was a socialite from back east, she would wear that back to the east, and she was not appreciated. They felt that wearing indigenous clothing and wearing indigenous art was not appropriate for Eastern society. However, needless to say, and of course, there's examples, beloved examples of the bolo tie. There we go. More pictures as far as the different uses. If you'll notice the headstall on the horse up there in the center picture, that's actually very popular for parade, and I actually have a piece over there on the table. I have a headstall over there and reins. But of course, by the 60s and 70s, even Hollywood embraced the look. There we go. And now, with the rise of Yellowstone, And like, all of a sudden, turquoise is in demand. And is it turquoise or is it the look? And that's something that we're going to be discussing. Is that sometimes it's just the look somebody wants. But if it's a true piece of Native American or Arizona turquoise, it's good to know your stones. So now I'm going to let my husband, Scott Logan, who is a graduate of the University of Arizona in hydrology, so he is an authority in this subject, and who knew that his degree from X amount of years ago would coincide with my passion. So Scott, I'm going to let you do this. There you go.
She'll be back, don't worry. And don't let her fool you, she's more than an aficionado. Her license plate on her vehicle says turquoise. All right, she owns it. All right, she owns it. So I get to talk to you tonight about the nerdy side of turquoise, just briefly. And I'd like to thank you. We're so honored to be here. You've been so hospitable. It's been so much fun so far. Seen so much great turquoise. This is a great experience. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the geochemistry, the formation of turquoise, the geology of turquoise. Hopefully I won't make your eyes glaze over. We're sort of going back to school, and then do a comparative value of some turquoise. So by gemstone standards, we're going to get a little bit technical, but it's for a reason. By gemstone standards, turquoise can be considered a fairly complex gemstone. There are many gemstones that have a pretty simple chemical formula, like copper sulfate or aluminum oxide or silicon oxide or just carbon, which is a diamond. So the chemical formula here is CuAlPO4OH H2O. That's copper for Cu. Yeah, okay. Hang with me. Al is aluminum, PO4 is phosphate. Then we have a hydroxide ion, and then H2O, water. So water is actually part of the chemical composition of turquoise. Appropriate, since the Navajo people believe it was some of her tears falling to the earth. So we call this a copper aluminum phosphate. Because of the water, we call it a hydrous, copper aluminum phosphate. Wherever you find turquoise, more often than not, you'll find its cousin gemstones, also copper-based, malachite and azurite. Malachite's on top in green, and azurite down below. Those are copper carbonates. And they are much more abundant on the earth because carbonate is very, very plentiful on the earth versus phosphate. So, turquoise is not formed with the original rock, not with the lava, not with the sandstone or the limestone or the granite. It's derived from all those materials. Rainwater falls, dissolves little tiny amounts of the ingredients, a little bit of copper, a little bit of aluminum, a little bit of phosphate, collects them all together, they pool together, they're dissolved in the water, they percolate underground, come to rest, and they sit there, and they sort of bake a little bit. And then water falls again, rain falls again, and dissolves these things and brings them all together. So it's a complex process that is needed to make turquoise come together. There can also be geothermal interactions from below. So groundwater or geothermal fluid can bring up the ingredients also and deposit it where turquoise can come and form. But a delicate balance is needed. First of all, you need copper. Without copper, you can't get turquoise. You need aluminum, you need phosphate. All those need to be present. And you need water. You need rainwater. But just enough rainwater. If you look at a map of where turquoise is found around the globe, China, Tibet, Persia, Egypt, Chile, Peru, southwestern United States, they're all in desert or arid regions. And why is that? Because if there's too much water, it dilutes the mixture and turquoise doesn't have a chance to form. Or it washes away one of the ingredients, washes away the copper, washes away the aluminum, etc. So a delicate balance is needed. So it's a complicated gemstone. Some gemologists call it a freak of nature. And it sort of is. Also wanted to show you how you can find it underground. You can find it in nodule form as the water falls, percolates into the earth where there's a pocket or a void. The water will fill it up. and eventually over time will fill up with turquoise, or in vein form, where you have cracks and crevices and folds and flaps underground. Water gets in there too and can help, and turquoise can form in those in a vein fashion as well. And this is how you would find it out, in the field. On the left, a vein of turquoise, and then, on the right, a pocket of turquoise, or nugget, or nodule. So I bring up the chemistry of turquoise because the color of turquoise is controlled by the chemistry. So again, just going to let's go back. There we go. So both the copper and aluminum can be substituted by other elements. Copper is not the only element on the Earth that can bind with aluminum and bind with phosphate. There are many others, most notably iron, to a lesser extent zinc. There are others like cobalt and chromium, but by far iron is another element that can bind with aluminum and phosphate. So what we found through analysis is that the more blue the turquoise, the higher the percentage of copper. And it's sort of interesting that in Arizona, it seems like the vast majority of turquoise that is found here is more blue, because we're a very copper-rich state. I think there's one more. Right. There we go. Okay. The more green the turquoise, the higher the percentage of iron. So that's why you have green turquoise. To a lesser extent, zinc can also turn it green. Now, don't misunderstand me, it's still copper-rich. It's a copper-based mineral, but there are some dilutions in there, some substitutions of iron that are in it, which makes it green. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Which one appeals to you more? I just wanted to give you a couple of shots here of the subsurface, what things look like under the Earth, but this has been exposed by a road cut. You can just see the cracks and the crevices and the faulting and the folds and the flaps of where the water gets in and flows underground and comes to rest with the ingredients that is needed to make turquoise. So last thing I'm going to do is go through a comparative value, but first to take you through the process of from rough stone in the buckets and the tub. That's rough stone as you would chop it up with with a rock hammer, and then you slab it, you cut it, and then you polish it and you form it and you buff it and you put a backing on it. And in the right hand photo here, those are cabochons. A cabochon is a gemstone that's ready to be set in a piece of jewelry, which my wife has several on the table over here. And why do I bring that up? Cabochons, because turquoise is, and any gemstone for that matter, is sold as a cabochon. You can buy it rough, of course, but if you're making jewelry, you buy it as a cab. Now, cabochons are sold by the carat. Carat is a unit of mass or weight. It's equal to 200 milligrams. Now, don't mistake the weight of carat for the purity of gold carat. That's K-A-R-A-T in English, and that's a measure of the purity of gold, right? 24 karat, 14 karat. The carat weight of a gemstone is a unit of mass, milligrams, or 200 milligrams. And a carat of diamond, and a carat of turquoise, and a carat of sapphire all weigh the same. They look different because they have different densities, but they're all the same weight. All right. Hang on, I don't want to reveal that yet. I was trying to do that. So there's 1,000 milligrams per gram, which means if you do the math, and I'm going to do the math for you, but this is your last academic exercise for the evening, so just bear with me. There's 5 carats per gram, and because of that, now I'm going to convert that from metric into English. So there are 28.35 grams per ounce, which means there are about 142 carats per ounce. 142 carats per ounce. So if you have 142 carats of a particular gemstone, you have 1 ounce of that. So let's say you're walking around the gem and mineral show or a lapidary store, and you come across a variety of turquoise that costs you $20 per carat. If you do the math, you multiply $20 times 142, that gives you $2,800 per ounce. Now, most turquoise sells between $1 to $8 per carat. That's the vast majority. But when you get into the rare kinds of turquoise, more desirable, the more gemstone quality, those can run 15 to 20, sometimes 50, and even more per carat. So $2,800 per ounce. There's a hint on the screen. What other mineral element is sold by the ounce on the open trading? Gold. Anybody know what gold is trading for about these days? About 19, yeah. Last I saw was about 1900, maybe 1940, something like that. $1,900 an ounce. Is that more or less than this variety of turquoise? Less. Ooh. Ah. Who knew? Who knew that some turquoise could be more valuable than gold? My wife and I ran into a very well-known gemstone dealer in Santa Fe this past summer, and he was getting ready to sell Bisbee turquoise for $100 a carat. And he's getting ready, and he's got all the provenance, he's got everything he needs to back it up for $200 a carat. At $200 a carat, that's about $29,000 an ounce. So I hope you've come away with a little stronger appreciation for this modest gemstone we call turquoise, and also its freakish nature, of how difficult it is to actually form in the natural world. Okay, one question. I got to turn it back to my wife.
So, I'm just curious, given what you need to produce it, is turquoise continually regenerating? What prevents it from regenerating?
Well, it does regenerate because it's a natural process, but it takes hundreds of thousands to millions of years to build up to where it's something that you can actually bring out of the earth. So it takes geologic time to create. Yeah, good question. Let me invite my wife back up to take us back through the copper mines and turquoise mines of Arizona.
The nerdy side of turquoise. Who knew it was going to be so interesting? So now, are you thinking of turquoise a little bit differently? All that stuff that you wore in the 70s and put it in the garage sale? Right? You're thinking differently about it. So now particularly we're going to talk about Arizona turquoise. And here we have Coronado in the 7 cities of gold. I keep turning it up, sorry. Coronado in the 7 cities of gold. He came looking for gold. Came right up through Arizona. Did he find his gold? No. He did find mines. He found turquoise mines and copper mines. And he actually mocked the Native Americans for mining turquoise, this brittle blue stone. But afterward came the real gold rush of California. And when that had played out, the miners wandered into the Arizona territory looking for new claims. And the real mining came in 1854 with one of the first big claims in Tubac, of all places. In Tubac, Arizona. It was found in 1854, mines officially opened, and they were employing more than 1,000 miners by 1858. That surprised me too. Then the Gila River area near Yuma yielded gold, and all of a sudden the Arizona territory became very important. So as Scott spoke about the location of copper in relation to turquoise, copper and other precious metals are far more lucrative on the world market, and they're more abundant than turquoise. In arid regions, wherever there's copper, typically there's turquoise. But most commercial mines, I want you to hear this, most commercial mines think that turquoise is a nuisance. It is garbage to be dumped. So, they do dump it. They ignore it. In recent times, commercial mining practices and health and safety regulations have shut down accessibility to miners or to turquoise gatherers in conjunction with commercial mines. And American turquoise is disappearing. It is sad. It is. Add to that the immense mining resources of China, Iran, and Kazakhstan, and they have high quality, very inexpensive turquoise, and it's flooding the American gem and lapidary markets. And American turquoise is starting to disappear. So what I would like you to do is think about some of the Arizona mines. Can anybody name an Arizona mine? Morenci. Bisbee. Sleeping Beauty. Kingman. There you go. Those are the most popular ones. There are other ones. One is Ithaca Peak, the Bluebird Mine, Castle Dome, Pinto Valley, and Turquoise Mountain. Those are some of the lesser known ones. And we're going to start with the Bisbee Mine. Anybody here got Bisbee on tonight? Yay. She does. I've got a Bisbee bracelet on. Bisbee is known for its electric blue. For about 60 years, the Bisbee mine operated and they had no sign of turquoise. Bisbee mine opened in the late 1800s, operated for 60 years with no turquoise in sight. But in 1950, upon the opening of the Lavender Pit mine, the big open pit, they found turquoise, they found Bisbee. And what did they do? It was a nuisance, so they dumped it. That's right, they dumped it. And on lunch hours, the miners would pick through the tailings and put it in their lunchbox. And that's what they called it, lunchbox turquoise. It was a nuisance, and only once did Phelps Dodge Company grant a mining claim to one couple, and their names are Bob and Mar Matthews, and that was the collection that Scott was talking about. They were the only ones who had the claim for it. For years they were allowed to pick through, but then due to changing regulations, health and safety standards, the entire mine shut down in 1975. And all of that beautiful turquoise was plowed under and buried so that they would not have illegal scavenging. The Matthew family has since sold their supplies, so no new Bisbee is being produced. If you have a piece of Bisbee turquoise, it is a rarity. It's not, I mean, there are people who have stashes, or collectors of it, but no new Bisbee is being produced. So here's some examples of some of the beautiful colors of Bisbee. A few folks have rough pieces that are uncut. Most of it has been cabbed, as Scott called it, put into cabochons. And remember, this is a turquoise that was mined many years ago, pre-75. And today, Bisbee is one of the most highly collected forms of turquoise, and actually goes from $25 to $50 a carat. And if you don't mind, I have messed up my notes here. I'm going to try and do that. So the next one is the Morenci mine. Morenci is also a beautiful blue, electric blue, and it has pyrite in it. It is known for its pyrite. And those are those black flecks that you see in there. Under the right light or under a microscope, it's prismatic. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorites. And it is known for its pyrite. Morenci is still in operation. It is a copper mine that is still in operation. In fact, there's so much copper, they said that it will continue to run as it is for the next 60 years. But how much turquoise is coming out of Morenci? What? None? None. Zero. They quit all of that in 1984. They shut it down for mining of turquoise. Not only that, but the practices of mining has changed. Gone are the days where you crush and sift. No. Does anybody know how they clean what's pulled out of the mine? Chemical sulfuric acid. What do you think that does to turquoise? It's gone. So when I say Arizona turquoise is disappearing, I am very serious. It gets washed And whatever is left is slurry. You're exactly right. It is gone. So if you have a piece of Morenci turquoise, it's not quite as highly valued as the Bisbee, but it is just as precious as a piece of Arizona history. There's some more of it. So the next one, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is known for its absolutely clear blue, no matrix, highly desirable. And here, there it is. There's a picture of the Sleeping Beauty mine. Does anybody know what year it closed? Recent. It was 2012. And Sleeping Beauty is known all over the world for its clarity, for the color that it produces. And when there was word that the Sleeping Beauty mine was going to be closing, one more. Oh, I want to just, this is particularly what Sleeping Beauty is known for. You see the clarity and all of that. Zuni needle points squash there, as well as the earrings. And oh my goodness, I have a QVC. Why is QVC up there? Does anybody know? QVC is selling Sleeping Beauty. Laugh all you want. Guess what? They are really selling Sleeping Beauty. It is not Native American jewelry, but it really is Sleeping Beauty, because of this man. This man's name is Ernie Montoya, and he is actually the owner of 5 different turquoise mines in the United States. He got word in 2011 that Sleeping Beauty would be closed, and he had the wherewithal to buy 50,000 pounds of raw Sleeping Beauty, and he warehoused it. Right? Isn't that amazing? And he knew the day would be coming when it would be highly desirable. And by the way, this is why we call him the king of turquoise. He really is. But he made a deal with QVC. They sourced their turquoise, and it really is authentic Sleeping Beauty turquoise. It's placed in jewelry made by, I believe, Carolyn Pollock. So it really is Sleeping Beauty. So if you can buy a piece and it's authentic. But he's typical, he is not typical. But there are lots of people who saw this day coming, and they put back turquoise, both in raw and capped forms. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Kingman mine. So this is the map that we have typically come to know about the area of Arizona turquoise. And Kingman is up in the northwest corner. Kingman is actually in an area called Mineral Park, and there's multiple mines there. It's not just Kingman, it's the Kingman district. It's actually the Mineral Park district, but Ithaca Peak is there, Turquoise Mountain is there, Kingman is there. And there we go. There's a picture of Mineral Park. That's actually a picture of multiple mines. That's one site that has multiple mines. And what's interesting is the Koba family gained the mineral rights in the late 1800s for Kingman mines. They still have it today after 4 generations. Kingman is now the single producing commercially turquoise in the United States. Everything else is either shut down or it's the little mom and pop hat mines. So Kingman is really, I don't know how they did it. I don't know who wrote that contract. To last all those generations through all the multiple owners of the copper mine. Oh, there we go. So Kingman, here's a little dirty secret that you might not know. So I go to the gem show and I went to Kingman, and it was very interesting because I try to look for natural stones, untreated gem quality. And as I was standing there, there's this vast counter of Kingman turquoise. And I said, I was here for natural. And he said, you don't want to look at any of this? And I said, no, I don't want to look at natural. He pulled out a half tray. Everything else was either stabilized or dyed. Still came in turquoise, still natural turquoise, just enhanced. So we're gonna go over some of that right now. And absolutely beautiful. And those right, take a look at those. Those are lovely. Those are stabilized and dyed. Those are stabilized and dyed. They're no less turquoise. They're just enhanced. Yes. And now this next one, there you go. So this is what they call compressed turquoise. This is actually very popular right now. And it's extremely affordable. You can buy a block of that turquoise, it's 2 by 2 by 4, for about $200. And you can get 40 or 50 tabs out of it, 40 or 50 stones. So for artists who just want to get out their work, that works beautifully. But if you are a collector and you want to know that what you're wearing is authentic, you need to be asking questions. Is this stabilized? Is this compressed? So what that is turquoise, that is pieces of turquoise that are compressed together with polymer. And you can see they're beautiful. And they are calibrated and stabilized and dyed. And it's not just Kingman doing this. It's a lot of the turquoise mines. It has been. And part of it is because of the mine closures and the disappearance and the flood of foreign turquoise. So this is how creative it gets. Here you go. You got mother of pearl and turquoise. Next one is lapis and obsidian. That one's got more spiny oyster. And then this one is just multiple colors of turquoise. And I'm not saying this to disparage Kingman at all, because other ones are using it too. But they also have the natural. Right there, it says each grouping, that's a black spider-leg Kingman, unstabilized, ready to set. And it says 120 to 150 for the set. That doesn't sound bad, but those are smaller than your pinky finger. Those are tiny little stones. So when you go to look, you're paying for little tiny stones. This is an excellent example. Here's Mojave Purple. It's a very popular compressed turquoise. That cabochon that you're seeing there is 68 carats. It's cut, polished, ready to set in jewelry, and it is $45 for 68 carats.
Wow.
But it's beautiful, and if you want to pop a color, that will work, yes. Now, if you look right to the right, natural high-grade Bisbee turquoise, 4 carats. That's not even as big as the fingerprints. Cut, polished, ready to set, $206. That's the difference. So, yeah, you might be getting a good deal, but what are you getting in your jewelry? Ask the questions. So, Kingman still does have their natural, and this is some of their natural black webbing. It's lovely. It's very rare, very rare. The next one is Kingman from the 70s. That is one of their typical looks for the 70s. And when you think about it, Kingman has a lot of different looks because every time they mine, they come across a different vein. And as Scott was saying, different areas, different pockets, different minerals that add with it, it's going to have a different look every time they open up the mountain. And this is one of them. It's called, maybe, there it is, Kingman Water Wet, which is an unusual stone. Notice the matrix is white. It's a very unusual one, yeah. And that's one of their high quality gem quality stones. No, it's called, I'm sorry, water web. Water web. Water web, yes. Now this is the one Scott was talking about that combines with titanium. Oh, he forgot to tell him about titanium. So, it combines turquoise, the copper can combine with iron to make it what color? Green. And pure copper to blue. And here's one with titanium. It's turquoise, but it's not turquoise. It's not the color of turquoise, it's lavender. And it is actually a very beautiful, a very hard stone from Kazakhstan, and it's called Golden Hills. It is actually taking the gem world by storm, and you can buy it all over. The gem show is full of it. It's beautiful. It's not American. And then we have Tues turquoise from China. Also, much like American turquoise, the vast array of colors, textures, the webbing is unbelievable. However, it is from China. It is extremely expensive comparative to the higher quality, and I was told that 90% of it is stabilized. That is coming into this country. So it is beautiful, but also we don't know the mining practices. I am not an authority to speak on that, but I do know that that's one of the things that drives the price up of the American turquoise is our mining practices and it's the health and safety standards. And in China, as you can see, it's mass produced on a huge scale. Something to also consider that whenever you have the Chinese mines, the government owns 51% of the mines. So here, they're privately owned or corporately owned. Yes. 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 His question was, there you go. He said, aren't a lot of turquoises from China enhanced? And the answer is yes. 90% of what is being brought into this country from China is enhanced. It is either stabilized, dyed, composite. Yes, it is. So what is happening is, here you go, small mine operations. This is what turquoise mining looks like now. Instead of working in conjunction with the large copper mines, people are going out and staking claims, and that's where our turquoise is coming from. So when you see the rise of the price of turquoise, it's not necessarily the old turquoise that is just prices are rising. All turquoise, all American turquoise is rising because of the labor-intensive work that needs to be done for the small mine operation. And actually on the bottom left, that is actually a significant mine. It was called the Godber in Logan County, Nevada. And driving by, you would think it was a foxhole. It's nothing major. And that's where a significant amount of turquoise came from. And then some of you may have seen Turquoise Fever. Anybody watch the show Turquoise Fever? Did you? So the Addison brothers had this show, and you could watch them blow up the mountain to look for turquoise. And then, there you go. That's what they did. That's the excitement of turquoise mining. You pick through the tailings. And that is how turquoise is found. There you go. Three turquoise hunters sharing one bucket. What drives up the price? And then the one on the left, that wound up being a really significant find. And that was right in Nevada. It's right near the Damali mine, which is a real deep green. So this is the map that we've come to know and love. Here we go. That's Bisbee, and look at Arizona specifically. Bisbee, Kingman, Morenci, Sleeping Beauty, and Castleton. Those are the most popular ones in Arizona. Now, although there was a preview up here in this little, up here, the new map looks like this. And it's very exciting. Because of the significant closures of the commercial mines to those who are gathering turquoise, small mines have cropped up. And yeah, I'm not even going to go into Nevada. Look at all of the ones in Nevada. So we've got Bisbee, Bisbee, King Montmorency, Sleeping Beauty, Castle Dome, which has been renamed because somebody new purchased it, so it is now called Pinto Valley. There's Turquoise Mountain, Ithaca Peak, Bluebird, Saurita, I didn't know there was one there, Canyon Creek, Cave Creek, and Sonoran Gold, which is on the border. Sonoran Gold is beautiful. Instead of having a black matrix, it typically has a green matrix. There I have a couple samples up there on the table. Something else to consider, a lot of turquoises in people's older miners' collections. Like I said, they knew this day was coming with mine closures and everything, so they're biding their time to release that turquoise. And the gem show is a great place to go meet those people.
So that blue is
Yes.
actually blue blue? Like it shows there.
Yes, it's very blue. And part of that is the significance of the presence of copper in all of our mines. I am winding up. Just want to make sure. My hope tonight is that you've gained a little bit of understanding about the significance of American turquoise, but specifically Arizona turquoise, and that it is disappearing. And that despite the apparent abundance of turquoise all around us, there's very little gem quality untreated turquoise stones on the market. More than that, true high quality American stones are so scarce, Scott demonstrated that the best turquoise has been deemed more valuable than gold. So if you have a piece of turquoise, take care of it. Wear it. Don't let it get into water. Keep it out of oils. Keep it out of lotions, because it may discolor it. But by all means, wear it. Would you put an original beer stack in your closet or in your drawer for safekeeping? No. You would put it on your wall and you would enjoy it. So you need to do that with your turquoise as well. Have it on display in your home. Enjoy its color. Enjoy its creativity and its beauty. Yeah, and purity, right? Just gratuitously showing you pieces of turquoise, like a liquor roller. There we go. And of course, if you need a piece of turquoise, a business card is right here. So thank you tonight for letting me share my passion. And yes, I really do display my turquoise in my home. Yes, ma'am.
What do they do to stabilize?
That's a very good question. So, did I? How about that? I'll just leave the picture up. Because it's green. Other than looking at it on my screen. So what they do is they either, sometimes they soak it in oils or resin, or sometimes it's soaked in a polymer. And because turquoise is so porous, the pores are filled in with that other material to make it harder. And it's actually easier for artisans to cut and make into the cabochon. Turquoise is actually very chalky. So sometimes it comes out and you don't want to waste the material, so that's the material that is being stabilized. Here's something interesting. Only 1% of the turquoise that is mined is gem quality. In the world. Not just America, in the world. So 1%, now there's lesser degrees, but they say that like that 10% to 1% is either gem quality or just under, and it can be used untreated. But 90 to 95% has to be stabilized in order for it to reach the market. It's very interesting. And yes.
Can you tell us more about the lander that recently was sold?
Yes. I have the honor of coming from a family that collected landers. And so my father was an entrepreneur on many fronts, and one of the things that he invested in was Landers Blue. And so recently, there was a Landers Blue squash that the family owned that was sold at auction up at Western Trading Post. Prior to that, there was another one that was sold privately, and both of them sold for about the same amount of money. Okay.
It's not yours.
Okay. Yes.
Are you allowed to say what kind of money it's sold for?
So the one that sold, the one that sold at auction, I believe sold for $120,000 for a squash blossom. Yes.
A couple more questions. How do you recognize stabilized stone?
That's a very good question. She asked, how do you tell stabilized? You have to be able to purchase your stones from someone who's willing to tell you they're stabilized. And that's the problem. So one of the things I do, like my parents, I source my stones. In fact, one of the major places I go to is Mr. Rudy Montoya. He literally, as you look through the stones, he will have an N or an S, natural or stabilized. There are a lot of people who don't know. There are a lot of people who sell turquoise who don't know. So it is not easy to find out.
Can you tell?
Can I tell?
Yeah.
On some, yes. It's very easy to tell on some, but there are some very beautiful pieces of turquoise out there that you cannot tell.
Is there a system of which you can determine whether it's
Yes.
real or not?
Yes.
Does it damage the stone at all?
I don't know if it damages the stone, but I do know that there are tests, and then there's also, if it's a significant piece, the geoisotope. They will test it. They can test it to find out for the level of polymer that's in it, so they would be able to test. Yes.
Is that a modern technique for stabilization, or?
You know, you would think it would be, but if you look at some pieces from the 60s, there's black turquoise. The silver work is there, but the turquoise wasn't available, so they used what was available. Actually, I was told that even during Fred Harvey's era, when turquoise would run low, they would paint glass. And
So you talked about turquoise being naturally chalky.
yes.
So I have a vintage piece of chalky. Does that signifies not as quality of a natural stone?
That's a good question. So, this is a tough one. That is correct. He's going to answer this in the chemistry.
So chalk is a measure of how hard something is, and it's measured on what's called the Mohs hardness scale. Diamond is the top of 10, and chalk is about 1 or 2. Most turquoise, gem quality turquoise is between 6, 6.5. Pretty good, pretty solid. But when she says chalk, she means like chalkboard chalk. It really is chalky.
Like 4 or less on the nose.
Crystal.
Yeah, I don't know the hardness of crystal gold. It's off. Yeah, right. So it actually is a chalk.
So is it typical for a vintage nugget piece to break into?
Is it typical?
Yeah, even if it was
Is it just a piece of rock?
no, just a necklace, all chunked of turquoise and a piece of it, like the chalky.
Sure, it can happen. You're just like, we talked to some gem dealers at a diamond, shatters. You hit it just the right way, just the right harmony or something, and then boom, it's gone. The same can happen with most gemstones, turquoise included.
I think we've got,
Thank you. It is a pleasure.
This is a special gift from Friends of Western Art to you, thanking you for this wonderful speech and presentation.
Use this to keep my notes.
Yeah, well, so we'll have you back. You can use that.